Hey everybody, I'm Josh Olive with Haven Comics, and it's Thursday night, which means it's time for some shop talk. And we have got an awesome show lined up for you guys tonight. We are really, really excited about. So stick around after this really cool intro video that is way cooler than we are. We're just going to jump right into things tonight because we're not going to waste a lot of time with preamble and whatnot. We're just going to get right into it. So, first things first, bring on Alan, the one, the only, the wonderful co-host. How's it going, Alan? What's up?
Well, I'm definitely regretting that milkshake that I had with dinner.
As long as the rest of us don't regret it.
Yeah, I feel like I'm out to here. But other than that, I'm doing really good.
Did you pick up that yard sale Ouija board yet?
No, I'm still searching for the yard sale Ouija board. As soon as we get past tornado season here in the South, we'll be in yard sale season, so we're back in business.
All right, well, good luck. Would also like to bring on our special film industry correspondent. What's happening, Aaron?
I appreciate that title. Thank you. I'm still contemplating the causality between tornadoes and yard sales. I hadn't thought about that before.
We got to get past tornado season, then we're smack dab in the middle of yard sale season.
I don't like that.
It's a way of life if you live in North Alabama, man.
Yeah, fair enough.
I mean, let's put it this way. This past Sunday night, it was 75 degrees. At midnight, it was 71 degrees. We were under a heavy tornado watch, thunderstorms, the whole 9 yards, or tornado warning, because of the cold front that was coming through. And then we had a snow, they said flurries. It was a blizzard. We got 1.5 inches of snow in about 3 hours on Monday morning.
My God.
Yeah, we went
Welcome to Alabama.
We went from a tornado warning at 3 a.m. to 1.5 inches of snow by 10 a.m.
That's correct.
Atlanta's was just like thunderstorm, 80 degrees, 30 degrees. That was what happened here. That was wow.
Even the snow doesn't like Atlanta.
Yeah,
that's true. That's true.
But we're wasting time here when we have an awesome guest on tonight. I want to talk about. He's returning for the first time in a little over 2 years. The last time he was with us was January of 2024, and it was to date my favorite interview show we have ever done. So awesome. What an incredible story. If you've not heard it, the origin story there, go back and find it. It is well worth watching. So we're bringing him back because he was really gracious and said he would do it.
Well, the first time it was on us. The second time is his own fault.
That's right. This is his fault. He came back. But guys, we have got the co-creator of Sentry, The Hood, one of the best. He wrote the single best characterization of Cobra Commander ever in a G.I. Joe comic. He has written an iconic, defining run of Hellblazer. This is an incredible comics creator, and we welcome aboard Mr. Paul Jenkins. How are you, sir?
Certified badass.
I am. I'm very
certified badass.
Being originally from, as you know, from Northeast Alabama, I feel, the pain of my people. So yeah, I've been through a few tornadoes, being from Northeast Alabama. So what can you say?
Yeah, welcome to it. It's it never leaves you. Once you've experienced it, it's here for good.
That's right. That's right. You can take the boy out of the country, but you can't take the country out of the boy.
Yeah. So speaking of countries, how is Wales these days? I see you guys passed a law that I'm really in favor of that makes it illegal for politicians to lie to the public.
It's impossible to state how cold it is in Wales at the moment. Sideways rain and all of that. But the air is very clean and the sheep are happy, so we are good.
We were driving through Wales. I think I told you this before. In this would have been 1985, 86. It was 86 or It was April of 1986. We're out in the mountains of Wales. We're in the area of Snowdonia. My dad takes the scenic route, and then we end up on the scenic route of the scenic route. And we're going around the side of a mountain. It's 1-lane road, and there's a construction crew out working. and they had to move all this big road equipment so that we could get past. And while we're waiting for them to move it, this guy, kind of just a friendly guy, he strolls over to the car, and he and my dad start talking, and he's essentially saying, what are you guys doing out here? You're in the middle of nowhere. And Dad says, is this the way to London? And I guarantee you that guy still tells the story of the dumb American to this day.
He does. There's a thing that happens in the valleys where, you know, all the boys would be in the pub and they'd just be talking English, and then they find an English person has walked in, so they all start talking in Welsh. just to kind of
Who can blame them? Who can blame them? But we are here today for a host of reasons. One, because it's great to catch up with you, see what you're doing. The last time we talked to you, you were dealing with that really litigious son of a gun who like makes a living out of lawsuits against people. How has that finished? Is that still dragging out? Is it going to drag out forever?
Still going on. Very unpalatable to talk about. You know, it's just part of the way of the world. You can't really avoid those kind of things at times, especially maybe in my position publicly or whatever. You know, so still going on. It'll go on for another 2 or 3 years, I'm sure. Oh well, you know, moving on.
I hope he sits on a bed of fire ants. He deserves it. But the other thing we're going to talk about is a book that just came out this week, and I was thrilled to see it, and that is Sentry #1. Aaron picked up the variant cover because
just for some variety.
But yeah, this we all love the character of the Sentry. And so seeing him come back in the hands of the creator, who I trust is going to do it right. You don't, when a character gets handed off and somebody else picks it up, there's always that question: is it going to be right? Is it going to be good? So here it was a character we knew it's being handed off to somebody that we could trust, and we're really excited about it. So we wanted to have you come on and talk about that, because I do have a little bit of a bone to pick with you, dude. This should come with like a box of Kleenex, because it's going to make people cry.
You wait till you get to issue 3, mate.
Well, at least I have a heads up.
Okay, let me be honest about something right quick. In 100% all honesty, full disclosure, I am not completely up on all the lore of Sentry, but I do have questions about the character that I don't know if it's actually referring back to something that I missed somewhere.
Yeah.
But there's a few panels in here, which I thought was great, by the way, where the Void is on the island, and he's basically, to me, he was kind of picking at these people, going, "Oh, but you know, you're wealthy, you'll be okay." I thought that was hysterical, because I'm just kind of twisted like that.
Yeah.
But he's walking around and he's holding this kitten, and so my mind started going in like 1,000 different directions. Maybe I looked too much into it, but it almost come across as he was a little bit protective of this kitten, and there might have been some type of emotional attachment there.
You never know, right? Like the Void's kind of works in mysterious ways. The point is, that cat's already showed up actually in the past. He's called Frady Cat. And the idea being that the Sentry has a little dog. And so if the Void's going to have anything, he's going to have a cat, isn't he? He's going to have everything that the Sentry is not, right? So he's going to have a cat, because, you know, like dog owners are particular types of people, and cats work their own particular. I mean, what animal would the Void have if it wasn't a cat, right?
Yeah. So that actually answers my next question, because my next question was going to be, did the cat survive the island?
Of course he does. He's Frady Cat. He's like, you'll see him all the way through the series. He shows up just holding his cat. Like, I think the Void actually does it. The reason I did the prop was because I like the idea that the Void is like Ernst Stavro Blofeld from James Bond, where he just got his cat and he's just stroking it. You know? Yeah.
So you said on Facebook the other day, I think, and you've said this before, that a lot of what you write has got an autobiographical bent to it. And reading this issue, it seems to be pretty clear the event that really stuck with you and kept you up at night. And growing up here, I mean, here in Huntsville is the Rocket City. This is where we have the Space and Rocket Center. We put people on the moon, all this kind of stuff, right? And they tell us about those things when we were kids.
Yeah.
About the monkeys that we sent to space, about this, about that. They didn't tell us about how that ended.
Yeah.
And so that was something that we just never thought about, because we're like, oh, okay, everybody must have been fine. The people come back. That surely the animals come back too. So that when you get to that and you think about it, you're like, how awful are these people? What are they doing?
Well, the story of Leica is really sad. So I just wrote a Substack, and I'm going to be writing regularly Substacks about the books that I put out. So you can see the stories. Almost everything I do is very personal. But basically, the idea was that when I was a little boy, my father left when I was about 5 years old. And so, my brother and my mom and I didn't have anywhere to go. I mean, we basically moved to a farmer's cottage, and I had written into the Substack that, in fact, the origin of Wolverine, the story that you see about the kids at the bottom of the hill and the kids at the top of the hill, was literally how I grew up. That's what went into the origin of Wolverine. And I'll write about that in my Substack at some point. But, no dad, he's long gone. My mum is the most unique person, eccentric, has some mental health challenges that are really profound. And I think the best way of putting it is, everyone sort of says, well, my mum and my dad, everyone's got to complain about their parents, right? I got no complaints to make about my mum because she did her best, right? She tried really hard to raise my brother and I the best she could. She taught us incredible lessons. She's a teacher. So, you couldn't ride on a train with mum without her pointing out the strata of the rocks and all that kind of stuff. But you're 6 and you're like, I don't know what this crazy woman is saying, right? So she was like a constant fountain of information. So living in that environment was very weird. And I was very alone because I slept in the attic. That was the only place I had to sleep. And it was very cold. The nights, I'm a big insomniac. I've always been an insomniac. So as a little kid, I was awake at night a lot, listening to the sounds of the country outside, the full moon coming through this attic window. And at one point, my mum, being my mom, didn't tell me, hey, a little dog went to space. She went, hey, a little dog went to space, and it never came back, and they killed her. And I'm like, it just broke my heart, and it was, I'll never forget it. Like, I just thought, like, I want to go get her. I want to love her and have a dog. I want a pet. Let me go get Leica. But she had died decades before I was born, and so I couldn't go get her. And I realized that in all of us, we have like these these moments, right? These tragedies and these triumphs. They're like these core memories. And I'll never forget where I was standing. I love the moon. I was looking at the moon. We had a pond that had the goat outside called Hercules, and it had a quince tree that always produced one fruit, one quince. And I was standing right there when my mom told me about Leica, and I was looking at this moon and thinking about people up floating around the moon. And I just, kind of broke me, right? So I think that's that little tragedy you get. Like, you see The Lion King, or you see Bambi, and the mom dies in Bambi, spoiler alert, or in Lion King, right? And when you have your heart broken for the first time, I think you always remember it. And so that was what I brought into the story, that essentially the Sentry had his heart broken when he found out about Leica, and that was the first time the Void really was part of him. And so as he grew up and he got these powers and these things, you could see essentially that the Sentry was the part of him that wanted to just go and save everybody, wanted to save Leica, and the Void was the part that said, you can't do any of that. And so they're destined to fight forever.
Now, when you're writing the Sentry and the Void, since they are, pretty much like, and we'll use the story of Leica, that they are polar opposites. One wants to do the right thing, and the other one is just saying, no, you can't do that.
I think that's too simplistic, Alan. I don't think it's quite like that. I think it's more like that one of them is the idealized version of Bob Reynolds, right? That's the Sentry. That's what he wishes he could be. And he wishes the world worked like that, right? I could go save everybody, and I could save everybody. I got the power as the Sentry to go do it. But because he is, has some challenges with his mental health, he has this other side of him that says, you can't, listen, it's not realistic. You want to go save those people? That's not right. I will drown the equal amount of those people. Like, the Void is the part of him that says, because in truth, he could never go back and get Leica. There are two problems you can't solve, right? You can't solve a problem that you don't know about. You can't solve the problem of running out of time. And so he has this tragedy with him that, like, the Void understands that you can't just go save everybody. What would the world be like?
So will they, and I know this is going to be a bad comparison because they're totally different characters, but say like in Moon Knight with the dissociative personality disorder, there's been times where Mark Spector has basically sat there and literally said, okay, boys, it's time to have a meeting.
Yeah.
And they're all literally have a meeting in their mind. Will we ever see a moment where Void and Sentry just kind of butt heads? I mean, full on, whether it's a mental thing or any other way?
I would say what you'll see in this series is something that I haven't done with Sentry before. Like I was in a really odd position, right? I created the character. It took a long time to get the character to print. I mean, you know, I created him actually in 1993. And I pitched him to DC as an Hour Man story, and they couldn't do it. And it took a long time. Then, when we had success with Inhumans, we finally were allowed to do Sentry, and Jay and I kind of did that. And once he was published, I was able to write my story. So I worked on the Thunderbolts movie as a consultant, and I talked with Jake Schreier, the director. And Jake had said to me that actually they wanted to do my origin. They actually really wanted to do the original story where he doesn't remember who he was and he comes back and you find out he's both the Sentry and the Void and so on. But they felt it was a little close to one of the Spider-Man movies, so they chose to do it differently as they did it, you know. And then I did another series in 2005, which I've always been very proud of because, interestingly enough, that one wasn't noticed as much, but it's been the one that Jake actually used. That's like what they used for the Thunderbolts. They used that material. Mm-hmm. And then I haven't done him for a long time. So eventually I came back to do him again, and I kind of read up. I think I've got it here. Yeah, I've got the Sentry Omnibus. Mm-hmm. So, you know, this thing's massive, right? And there were loads of stories that I hadn't read. And then when I read them, I thought, oof, you know, like I wish they had done what I had asked them to do, which is to go with his clinical diagnosis that I'd create for the character. I thought that would keep some semblance of like continuity where people could go by the diagnosis. But they didn't. And so, you know, essentially he was used as like somebody's like attack dog. And then he was like so crazy. And it felt like a very naive approach to writing mental health issues, right? People are not crazy and standing on the corner just twirling their mustache and yelling at people and being crazy and blowing stuff up. People struggle. They want to heal. There's that element of it. You know, there's people trying to make sure that they are working with therapy, with drugs, you know, like psychiatry. People don't just kind of walk around and go, I'm batshit crazy, you know, and just do crazy stuff. And I never have written him like that. I've only ever written it because the focus of it is only Bob Reynolds. It's you know, I'm doing Captain Marvel right now, and the focus of that story is Carol Danvers is so interesting, right? Take away her powers, and she is a pilot. She was a head of NASA security. She's been an investigative reporter. She's pretty brave in her own right. So now you give her these powers, it makes it really interesting, right? Same thing with Bob. Take away his powers, and he's a guy that's struggling because we all struggle at some point, or we have a family member that's struggling. And I couldn't see people writing that. They were essentially writing, hey, he can blow a planet up, and hey, he gets torn in half, and then he tears someone else in half. And I'm like, no one cares. You don't care about the fight unless you care about the people in the fight. Mm-hmm. So my job is to make you care about the people.
That's one of the things I've always thought was it's what makes for a compelling story is you see the personal struggle. And in this particular issue where he's so concerned that the Void is winning. Yeah. The Void seems very kind of mathematical in a sense, in that he's saying this is what has to happen. Yeah. And because the Void seems to be he doesn't have the restrictions of like guilt and shame and those things, but Bob does, and it's a really interesting interplay where he has that concern and he has that, and so yeah, it makes you like really just like it's gonna be okay, man. You just want to give the guy a hug.
Yeah, I mean, I think that people don't realize that one of the things I've done, especially with Sentry more than anything, is put layers in that you must kind of like you're gonna you'll be immersed in the story in some way, but those layers will actually kind of hit you. So, for example, a big recurring motif in the first issue that you see is this Newton's cradle. And for anyone who doesn't know what Newton's cradle is, it's like the 5 balls that like bang into each other, and it shows basically cause and effect, right? If you transfer stuff and it kind of moves the other balls in the cradle. And so, we've got a lot of Bob kind of studying his Newton's cradle, thinking like for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. And he knows that if he's the Sentry, he's avoidant. And we do it for a reason, but also partly it's because Bob understands physics and he's really clever. And we wanted to kind of point out that he built the Watchtower and he built Clock and he's Reed Richards' best friends and they're both nerds, There's more to him than the guy that just, rips a villain in half. That to me, that stuff is kind of boring, but it's not boring when we do really good character studies and then we have him rip someone in half. You're like, okay, great. Now I kind of get it. Right. So I just think it's, my job to kind of come back, and to Marvel's credit, what they asked me to do was like, just do that thing that you do and don't worry about like trying to tie it into the stuff that we've done.
Thank
and I
God.
thought it was a good move.
I think that's a great move in many respects. First of all, bringing you back, I think, was a brilliant move on their part. So I'm glad that they did that, because I think that character-focused storytelling has fallen off at Marvel a lot over the years in general. It feels very much like they're just, let's just throw some stuff out there and people will buy it regardless. And I think they're realizing now, in the wake of the success that DC is having, which is hand over fist, and that's largely because they have a really unified editorial vision. They're letting creators go forth and do, and those creators are telling really great stories that are character focused, lots and lots of character development, character focus. And when you care about the characters, you want to see what happens to them, and you want to see how they continue to modify, and you feel bad when something goes amiss and they have setbacks. If you don't care about the characters, it's just watching a video game.
Yeah.
And so I think having you come back and do that for Sentry is spectacular, because you didn't say this, but I feel it. I think that when you simplify his character too much and you get into just good and bad, it's boring. And it's very easy to just, he flipped a switch and now it's one or the other. So having somebody that writes the character from the perspective of layers and depth is really meaningful to me. And that comes across in spades in this first issue.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's maybe we should say this, right? Look at the way the world is being presented to us and look at the problems we're having when it's, I feel like writing a poem, it's always red or blue, one or two, black or white. Like, what's the point, right? There's no such thing as black or white. There's no such thing as red or blue. That's what we're being conditioned for. That's what serves the people that are essentially like breaking society right now, as if everything's black or white. But there is no one or two, right? People should communicate. People should understand their shared experiences. People should do all of those things. And so there's no one or two or black or white with mental health issues. There isn't. Okay, there are all kinds of nuances, and especially the part that I think I didn't really care for when I looked at the way that Sentry had been done. It was almost like he's just crazy bastard, and you're sitting there and you're thinking, no one's like that. Let alone, what's the point, right? Like, there's so much nuance into people's lives. People struggle with their mental health. They have difficult moments where they don't feel so good about themselves, moments where they don't feel so good about the world, and moments when they feel elated and maybe too good about the world, right? All of those nuances are things that we should write about, because guess what? We experience all of those. And none of us have flown around the galaxy dressed in spandex punching somebody. So the bit we recognize is the story and characterization. We don't but we love the kind of interesting stuff of the galaxy flying, right? And so I think that their focus is so often sometimes on like punching giant robots and flying around the galaxy, and it should be about the people. And then when those people go off and do something interesting, that's when we care.
Yeah, see, I love and I mean, here comes a spoiler alert for people that haven't read it. I loved the way that this issue ended with the other heroes basically calling out for him, and it come across as he was struggling because he did not show up, or he just could not show up. Like he heard them, he knew that they needed them, but he was struggling so much he just couldn't do it. And I thought that was such a great ending to the first issue.
Well, he said, I guess on this podcast it's okay for us to do a couple of spoiler alerts. So sorry if I'm spoiling anything. But obviously this revolves around his dog, right? He has this little dog, and I've always loved that little character. I thought it was great to have like a super dog. Super pets is just great, right? And but we deal with real life, right? And sometimes our pets get sick, and we have to look after them, and it's depressing, and that's part of life. But when you're struggling with your mental health and you're dealing with depression, or you're dealing with agoraphobia and afraid to go out, or anxiety, those things can get magnified, right? So it creates this really difficult thing for him to have to overcome. He's struggling anyway, let alone having something so difficult happen. And it's clear, that his dog's not well. And so I know, as it proceeds and as the story keeps going, that what we're doing is a very hopefully tender kind of examination of what we all go through. We all go through difficulties where we're worried about someone that we love, and they get sick, or we don't know what to do. And so that's it. And it's in a pressure cooker, because this guy could go off and tear the planet in half. It could all go badly. So we're always on a knife edge with him because of how worried he is about his life.
See, on the flip side of that, I look at what you have going on with the Void, and we typically think of the Void as just kind of not this personification of evil necessarily, but just so dark and so in the shadows. And in this issue, we see him turning on people who we think, well, that's not a good person, so that's okay. I feel better about what he's doing because of who he's doing it to. And that's a really interesting thing to explore too, because that's got really human ramifications in both directions. So I'm curious to see where that goes, because that whole scene with the Kingpin, who gets away with everything all the time, was absolutely chilling. When you read that and you're like, oh no. And Kingpin's like, hey, maybe I can buy you off. And he's like, no, I don't care. I'm just because I want to do it.
Yeah, I think I think Kingpin's a really interesting character. I've used him before. It creates an ethically questionable environment, right?
Yeah.
Like if the Void does bad things, what if he does bad things to bad people?
Yeah. See, to me, it's not an ethical conundrum, because I thoroughly support the Void. I felt myself,
that's pretty funny.
As bad as it sounds, in this issue, I felt myself gravitating more toward the Void than I did actually Bob.
And I suspect that you anticipated that reaction.
Because ultimately it raises an ethical question. If you had to do bad things, but you chose to do them against bad people, what does that mean? Yeah. But the best stories don't always answer something. They don't answer a question. They ask a question.
100%.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of answering a question, Bob keeps referring to how quote unquote dark things got, and how he did something apparently very bad when he was off planet. Will we be exploring that soon?
Yeah. I mean, I don't need to do spoilers about the future books, right? But what I will say is this: he's clearly haunted by something that he's done, and being off planet and being away, and he clearly did some bad things as the Void. And what he's kind of wrestling with right now is that the void, there's supposed to be a balance, and the void is way up here now. He's done way more void things. He's the balance is getting broken. And he talks with his clock, his AI kind of supercomputer goes into therapy mode, and he talks to him like, I think, what if you lie to yourself? What if you are lying to yourself about how things are working, and things are mismanaged, things are balanced wrong? What if you just keep lying to yourself? Is that, what do I do about that? What if essentially I do bad things to bad people? What does that mean? Like, there should be an answer to that. I mean, I know that, Alan, your answer is great. Let them go hurt bad people, but it's not as easy as that, right? I think, and I am no way am I going to be the politics guy. Like, we will not drag me into a conversation about politics because I don't do that.
No fear.
But
you don't want to do that either.
Yeah, I don't do it. But I think that you can look at a situation that is going on right now. The question is, do you attack a country like Iran, right? It doesn't matter about the politics of it. It doesn't even matter about like what people think about it. It just matters about the question of like what happens when you go do that. Because you look at a country and you're like, Iran. Like, some people can look at it and go, they're all bad. I'm like, most of the people that live there aren't even close to bad. They're just living under a government that sucks, right? So we're bombing them. Is that good? Is that bad? Does it help everybody? Does it not? I'm not going to answer that question, but I do know that it raises lots of questions. So I don't think it's as easy to say, hey, we can go blow up the bad people. It's sort of like, yeah, but what happens, that's like ethically questionable, because what would happen if you took down the business empire of a very wealthy guy? Well, you've got like 12,000 people working for that business. What do? They suffer. So I don't think it's, we're trying to ask questions. We're not trying to answer them all the time.
Yeah, James here says one less bad person, in my opinion. I think for me, part of the ethical question comes in is, we're saying, to bad people, that's great. Well, that's because that's how we're defining it, and this guy's got the power to do something about it. But if somebody else has the power and they define it a different way, now we're the bad guys.
That's
and
right.
we don't feel that we're the bad guys. We feel like we're fine. We're normal people just going about our lives. We didn't ask for this. We didn't ask for that. We're not pursuing that. So it's a matter of you're leaving that decision to whoever has the power and the will to do something like that. Yep. And I think you get into a real ethical problem there, because if you allow it for somebody that you agree with, then what happens when they disagree with you?
When they disagree with you, right? And so it always comes down to that, right? Like, yeah. Clearly the Kingpin's a bad guy, but what about the people around him? What about the people who work for him? What about all that stuff? You can see that there's a lot going on, and he's obviously threatened the Kingpin at this point, and just basically sort of says to him, like, you're nothing to me, like, you're like a bunch of flesh wrapped around some impulses. Like, the way he talks to him is pretty cool.
It is devastating. I don't think anybody's ever talked to Kingpin that way.
Yep.
And made him feel like that was true.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think the one line though that won me over to the Void's way of thinking was, "Oh, you're rich, you'll be okay." I love that for some reason.
I think when the Void is making fun of all the people that are just about to drown,
yeah.
And he's got to, like, have some decorum. Think of the people on the Titanic.
I thought that was great.
And that's an interesting thing too, right? Because between them, Bob does not seem to have much of a sense of humor, because he is so wrapped up in his fear and his anxiety and his concern. You don't get to see a lot of humorous moments with him. But the Devil May Care Void is like cracking jokes. So it does make him kind of likable in a way that's interesting, because it's more comfortable, right? This he's confident. He's cracking jokes. He's got a sense of humor. That's an interesting conundrum too, because the Void is clearly bad, and yet you kind of go, but he's kind of like Darth Vader bad. We like him.
The best villains are the ones that you agree with or you can relate to, but you just can't agree with their methods.
Yeah,
that's why you got me with your portrayal of Cobra Commander in Cobra Reborn. That was the first time Cobra Commander was ever a character that I was really afraid of, because I said, oh my God, I can see why people would follow that.
I would follow that guy, right?
Oh my God. Yeah, that was something.
Yeah.
I can't remember who said it, but it kind of goes back to that old saying, you're only the bad guy in somebody else's story.
That's right.
It's also what I'm really interested in with this iteration of, or like meeting the Void again at this point in time, because you meet him through the lens of the Leica story. So you get the Void born out of heartbreak and have that context in the back of your mind. That is such a sympathy engine right out of the gate. And I'm so fascinated in what that means for like Bob and his complacency, because he understands that the Void is still fundamentally trying to protect him. Like, despite all of the intergalactic woes of it, I love this. I love this so much.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I think it's been, you know, so far the reaction to Sentry #1 has only been out for a day or so, so it's difficult to know. I'm not a guy that particularly cares too much about reviews, right? Because you can't really win. If someone wants to write a review because they just don't like Sentry, then they're going to write, you know, a negative review anyway, whether you can do anything about it. But what I've actually seen instead is a lot of people writing a lot of really positive stuff. So I think we're in a good place at the moment. You know, I really do. I think we're doing okay, and you know, we'll see exactly how it plays out in the end. But I know for a fact. I mean, this is just me talking here. I've written plenty of stuff for a long time, and I kind of know how special this book is right now.
Absolutely,
it's very special.
Before Thunderbolts came out, I had a whole like Sentry binge read because I had only ever read that initial Marvel Knights run. So I went from reading every Sentry title like in order and seeing how you came back to it every time with its new perspectives every time.
Yeah.
Having the kind of layer of the Marvel world of like, is this real? Is this not real? How did this happen? How did this not happen? Unravel itself through like Bob's own lens of how he is viewing himself, and letting the Void be a person he views as his enemy, and then realize that that comes from himself, to then the start of this book where it looks like it, or the book with John Romita. Was that 2005?
Yeah, I think it was about 2005, 2006. I think. Yeah.
When they sit down with each other, it's like a Batman and Joker at the side of the table, like Arkham kind of conversation, with the underline of this is a person talking to himself about the topic he wants to think about the least.
Yeah. Yep.
I love it. And to start it here with the Void, and we like the cards are on the table. Everybody, like, we're aware of the Void. We know like what the dynamic is between these two, and to then start it from a place of love and mutualistic understanding. You're breaking my heart already.
It's funny that, you know, a few people have already said to me, "Oh my God, you know, you're like breaking my heart with this book," and I'm like, "Man, we haven't even started yet."
No. I'm bracing for impact.
But I'll tell you this. I mean, I don't really always want to do spoilers, but I'm going to do you guys a little favor. Would you like to see a page of #2 that no one's seen before?
Would love to see a page of #2, especially since Josh is not on right now. I think he's having issues with his internet connection.
Okay, so I think that I have it. It's sort of sitting in the back. I think it looks like the page is.
Yeah. Okay. You want me to add it now?
Yeah, you can add it and just show people. So look, here's a page. I knew this page would be beautiful and special, and you don't have a dialogue on it. But this is this. You know, we all have pets, and this is just this page that I absolutely adore what Christian does with this work. And I knew this page would be great, and then it was more beautiful. And when you find out what's being said there, you will really appreciate it. He's just going for a fly with his dog, you know, just flying against the moon, and given the significance of what the moon means and a flying dog like her, you can probably get the significance of the moment, you know.
Yeah, so it actually means more since you've told us the story about you staring at the moon and everything. It kind of takes on a whole new meaning for people that actually know that story about you now.
Yeah, I think so. But I knew this page was special, and there are some really special pages in these books. I kind of know how special this particular story is. I've done this for a long time. There are plenty of ones that I do, and I really like them, or I'm very proud of it. I know what this story is going to do. It's going to hurt a lot of people. But
I'm already feeling it.
I promise you it's worth it. I promise you that you'll get to the end of number 4 and go, oh my God, it was worth it. I promise.
The best stories are ones that make you feel something. Those are the ones you remember. I read a lot of comics, and some of them are just fun, like some are popcorn kind of, oh yeah, that was fun. I watched some guys punch some robots. It was great. But you don't remember that. But like, I remember every single panel of G.I. Joe number 109 where the Saw Viper, they had a bunch of G.I. Joe guys captured and they're in a pit and they had to beat a fast retreat. And he said, well, what do I need to do? And Cobra Commander said, just deal with them. And he didn't mean kill them, but that's what the guy interpreted. So he just stood up above that pit with a big saw machine gun and killed all of them. And these are characters that I had known my whole life, right? And I'm like, you can't kill Doc. You just killed Doc.
Yeah.
You can't kill Quick Kick. You can't kill these people. And I have all these moments, and I still remember every bit of that. I remember how I felt about it. I remember all of that. And there are just stories that do that to you. And I think it's clear coming out of this first issue. Like I said, this should have a warning on the front. Don't read this without a box of Kleenex handy because you're going to cry.
Well, it's like that. It's sort of like I'll disagree with you because I think the only function of a story is to move your emotions. Right. My job is to be an emotional engineer and to move your emotions remotely with the work that I do. Right. If I don't do something that moves your emotions, what's the point?
Exactly. Yeah.
You open a book and you're essentially opening a mirror to yourself and you're looking at yourself. And so, I can't think of it in any other way than to move your emotions. It's sort of like what got me where I live in the world of comics. I'm like this guy that does story and characterization. Coming back to Marvel is quite enjoyable. But it's kind of odd that the reaction is like, oh, great, we get story and character. I'm like, we should have been doing story and character the whole time.
The whole time.
Right. So I can't speak for it because I don't know much about the other books, but I know I've heard a lot of comments about it. And I think, all I can hope that people expect of it is not necessarily whether or not it's very emotional. This one is, the story is. But I want to talk a little bit about Captain Marvel, right? Because I'm working on that too. And I have the first.
We're excited to talk about that too. Yes.
Yeah. I got that coming out in a couple of weeks' time. And I think the thing that I would say to you, because it almost seems like we're hyping up Sentry to be this like uber emotional kind of story, right? It's a very emotional story, but there are all kinds of stories. And what I will tell you is that, I've now done, I'm on the 5th issue of 5, right? But I've written most of it and I've written most of the dialogue and I know what happens at the end. And I'm telling you right now that the end of that story is very emotional too. Is it the same type of emotion? Not completely, but it's very emotional. And I'm really proud of it. I know what's happening in the last issue of the 5. And when it comes around, I know that people who like that character or who are even just enjoying our book, because Lucas's art is beautiful and, we're doing a really good job, I think, with it. And the editors are super pleased. Anyone reading that book will kind of understand what I said right now. They'll go like, oh, I know why he said it was really emotional because there's an element to what's happening that when you read a 5-issue series or a 4-issue series, or even if you just read a regular book, you should be putting the book down and go, oh yeah, that made me think, or that made me care, or that made me do something, right? Mm-hmm. That's my job. And if I'm not doing that, I'm not doing my job. And I don't understand what the remit is for the job if we're not trying to move people's emotions.
Yeah, I think part of it is, for me, when I read your work, you have consequence in what happens, right? The story as it unfolds, there are things that occur as a result, emotionally, physically, in reality, whatever. There's consequence to it. And what happens a lot of times, especially these big summer crossover events with 1 million different chapters and all these tie-ins, is it promises to be this world-shattering, changing the status quo forever, never going to be the same. And as soon as issue number 5 is over and the series is over, everything is exactly the same.
Yeah. Right.
There is no consequence. And so what you do is you build consequence into the story, and that's why it resonates, I think.
So that's something I'm really, really looking forward to with Captain Marvel specifically. My favorite Captain Marvel run so far is the Kelly Thompson run that was 5 issues long called Life of Captain Marvel. And it's just a recontextualization of her origin with her mom. And how that redefines like Carol interpersonally. That trajectory and the consequence of how Carol now sees herself with that revelation is the consequence that follows her into the rest of the books. And I think they've been writing the half Kree origin high like ever since, and it's like becoming a very big part of her character now. I don't know what you have planned. I'm so excited because I know it's baked in.
I love the character. I think what's interesting is that, you know, okay, so here's my full admission. Don't be upset. I'm not a guy with a history in comics of having read every issue of every character. I don't do it. When I came into Inhumans, I'd never heard of them. There are plenty of them. You know, the G.I. Joe thing that you really like, right? Never read a G.I. Joe before that. I wrote that. I'd never known anything about G.I. Joe, right? Sorry, it might upset you, but I've always been able to look at things with a bit of a fresh eye. So the same was similar of Captain Marvel. I read the Life of Captain Marvel. I thought that was really good. I thought that what Kelly Sue did was really good. I think you could look back at some of the ones at a certain point, and it was like some dude's version of feminism, right? And I was like, that's actually pretty funny, right? You know, like, and now the world's mightiest maiden crashes in, and you're like, no, not that, right? And so I don't really care because I'm not crusading for anybody. I don't need to, right? My job to write Captain Marvel is to make her a really compelling character and to be interested in her. And so what is it that anyone needs out of a Captain Marvel book or a Hulk book, or pick one, right? What do you need? You need to understand something about her character that you can see yourself. You need to just look at her. So I think in that Life of Captain Marvel that you liked, it was very much about like her and her mum. Mm-hmm. This one that I'm doing is very much about her and her family. And it's very much about like, you know, I grew up in a very fractured family, right? Like I grew up without a dad, and I grew up in this like crazy moving every 5 minutes, you know, like a bunch of pikeys, right? And I think that there's so much in that. So what you want to know about Carol is, how did she think? How did she feel? What leads her to this stuff? And so when her powers manifest, it's worth it. When she does a thing that's really interesting, it's worth it. To me, what's so interesting about her is take away all the powers, she would still be a fucking badass, right? She'd be a really interesting person. And so I like that element of her, but there's vulnerability, right? Because she had a really difficult relationship with her dad. She's got a past in her family that's really difficult to manage. And so we're doing most of that. And then there's all this really cool cosmic stuff, and stuff blows up, you know, and it's like great. Right? I think one of the first things we do in the first issue is blow up Broadway.
Oh my God.
Oh man.
I can't wait. I cannot wait.
She runs in, I think it's in the solicitation, so it's okay, but she runs into like the Wrecking Crew, and the Wrecking Crew are on Broadway smashing stuff up, and she's like, I like that show. You know, like, what are you doing?
The Wrecking Crew are criminally underused, I have to say. So both Sentry and Captain Marvel are both 5-issue limited series, right?
No, Sentry's 4 and Captain Marvel's 4.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you prefer the miniseries sort of format, or do you prefer a longer running kind of format? Is there, or is it just a matter of what you have time for and that sort of thing?
If you look back in the day when I first came to Marvel, I used to drive them crazy because I love single issues, right? And they hated it.
Well,
they wanted to write for trades, and I was like, if you want to trade, just put 5 single issues in a trade, which is what they end up doing with me.
Yeah. Because
I think that someone should be able to walk into a comic store and grab a book and read it. Like this is what I did with Spider-Man with Mark Buckingham all the time. Just pick the book up and read it and go, that was great. And even to this day, 25 years later, people come to me and they've got those same books and they've got the same emotions about those books, and they've got it in both hands and they're really moved. And they're like, I love this issue. Right. So I think single issues and small stories are really great. I think that once you get to this deconstructed part 15 of 19, right? My sort of like acid test for all of this would be, can I take my wife Melinda into a comic store and sort of blindfold her, spin her around, and send her towards the wall? If she picks up the first comic she finds, will she care? No. She won't, because it's part 12 of 17. She doesn't care. She can't. So we're not bringing in new audiences unless we have two things. What we need to do, I just wrote to Marvel about this. Actually, I just wrote to them and said, guys, you know, what you need is core. You need core stories that make us care, so that we care about the characters, and then we can put those characters in crossovers. We really, really need to do core stories, so that I could give a core story to my wife, Melinda, and she would make a value judgment based on that. And then she might go, you know what, I'm interested to know what that character does. We're never going to bring in new audiences if we don't do core stories. And that's why I think DC are doing so well, because they're putting it in the hands of core. You know?
Your lips to God's ears, man. I hope they listen to you, because that has been driving me nuts for a long time. For me, it feels like there are a handful of books that Marvel more or less just leaves alone and doesn't care about, like Jed McKay on Moon Knight, for example. He's been writing it now for a long time, and he just occasionally, every 30 issues or 10 issues or whatever, he changes the name of the book to a different name and puts a number 1 on it, but it's the same book that keeps going. And he does a phenomenal job with character development, characterization, and making you care about those people and what's going on. And Marvel more or less has just left him alone to do that. Ryan North has kind of done that with Fantastic Four. They just leave him alone. He writes it, and he makes you care about those characters. But you get to Spider-Man, you get to the X-Men, and they've got some good things going on sometimes, and Gail Simone's doing a really great job with Uncanny. But there's so much of it, and it's so overwhelming, and none of it is focused on just make me care about these people. And so I come from a long history, man. Spider-Man is one of my favorite characters of all time, and right now it's unreadable to me, and has been for years, and that bothers me.
I mean, you know, one of the things, obviously, understand something, guys, please, you know, like, I do this for a living, and all the people who do this for a living, you know, are writing their work, right? So you're never going to get me really to comment.
No, I'm not asking you to do that, because I'm sure they're doing what they've been given a remit to do.
Yeah, right. You know, these are professional people who are doing what they're trying to do, right? So I think it's important to understand that. But you know, primarily, I would say this. I think the mistake is almost always, why can't we just do like beautiful core stories that have meaning? You know what my pitch was before I left Marvel years ago in X-Men? Just let me get each X-Men, each one, and do a single issue about each of them that got to the core of each one of them. And you could just build up a giant library of individual X-Men core stories, because we did it in Mythos, right? And we did it when I did Captain America Theater of War. We did these just core stories, right? The Mythos one of Captain America is one that even to this day, you know, I'm so proud of. And I know that Chris Evans apparently took that book around with him his entire time playing Captain America. He loved that comic because he said it like epitomized Captain America. Great. So why can't we do that for every single character there is? I'd love to do a mythos for every single X-Men, do a mythos for all of these characters, just do these core stories. You don't need to constantly try to see if you can move the needle in a crossover. What you should be doing is building this content at the base and then allowing that to spread out, I think.
Also, that's what you pitched before you left back in the day?
Yeah.
I find that really helps them in the long run. Like I really, really love the Inhumans because of your story. I read it when I was maybe 12, and like that was what really got me into it. And how that book trained my brain to look at the characterization of all of them led me to enjoy all of the subsequent Inhuman books that you didn't write even more, because I had that version of them like front of mind. Like I think it helps for a longevity of a character like that, because Karnak, like what you did with Karnak, incredible.
That was by accident, by the way. Did you know that?
I did.
So I because I don't know anything about the characters, I didn't know anything about the comics. I wrote something with Karnak where he was like the advisor to the king, because he can find like a cup or something, and he can just kind of find the flaw in it and press it and it shatters, right? That's why it's called Karnak the Shatterer. And so I was like, oh yeah, he's the advisor to the king, and he looks at Attilan like society, in human society, and he's like, he knows where all the flaws are in it, and he advises the king, right? And all the fans were like, oh my God, Paul Jenkins is a genius. And I was like, oh shit, I thought that's what he did. so I was accidentally a genius.
And it redefined the character for so long that they ended up giving him a mini-series later down the line. Like
Nice.
there was a mini-series in 2015, and it was great.
I do all my best work by accident.
Yeah, that's amazing.
That's a great accident to have, or a great skill to have. Yeah, I do all my best. You should have that on your business cards.
Now,
That's fantastic.
with Sentry only being 4 issues and Captain Marvel only being 5.
Yeah.
Do we got something coming behind those? We got something we can talk about?
I can't talk about it, but yeah, there's a big project behind that. Yeah.
Okay.
So there'll be one that I'm working on right now, on getting up and running, and I think when people see it, they'll get it. They'll go like, yeah.
Well,
I would like to put a bug in your
ear.
ear. There was a 5-issue limited series that came out years ago. It didn't get a lot of fanfare, and then it became very popular on the secondary market because it was a low print run, this kind of thing, which was Adam, Legend of the Blue Marvel. Have you ever read that?
I have seen it, yeah. It was written by Kevin Grievous, right?
I believe that's correct, yes.
Yeah.
And I think Matt Broom was on art. That was a great story.
Yeah.
That was a great character, and has since just disappeared into the ethos.
Yeah.
Into the ether, just gone. And I have always thought that was a character that you could introduce and that you could write well. Has that something that's ever crossed your mind? Is that something that you would ever pitch to Marvel? Because I would dearly love to read it.
I think it's interesting because I've always thought that was Kevin. Like Kevin did such a good job with it, right? Like, why wouldn't Kevin do it?
Well, I would love for him to, but
yeah.
I don't know if he pitched them something else and they just said no. I have no idea.
Well, I know Kevin pretty well,
might have
so I'll give him a call and see if he's interested.
I would love to see it because that story, I can't keep a hold of it when I do get it. It sells immediately.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I think there's when you go through this business for as long as I have, right, there are plenty of ones that I just have in the back. And I'm like, one day I'm going to go back and say, remember this thing I pitched you? I still want to do it, right? I think the individual X-Men thing would be great. I wish I would love to do core individual. Like, why does it matter? Just do one after another, and just get the characters and just do a defining story of each individual character and move on. Right. I had a pitch for Doctor Strange that I always thought would be just so great, and
we all lean forward.
And they I think it sometimes the things that I want to do make people nervous. I wasn't going to break him or do anything wrong. There was something that would kind of come around full circle. Interestingly enough, for me, that was really weird because it was an 18-issue story in total, which I never do. I usually do 5 issues, right? But I could see why it was worth doing. And then there was another X-Men project that I wanted to do, but they weren't into, so I ended up doing it anyway after I could have left Marvel. And the idea was basically originally that what we do is we get X-Men that have an issue in society, right? So it's somebody with a mental illness, some health issue, somebody who has a physical health issue, somebody who is marginalized by society, maybe homeless, maybe, whatever. And show that essentially you've got a mega power, the mutant power, and you've got the human, and you've got a disadvantage in society, and it collides in the middle. Well, Marvel really didn't care for it. They didn't want to do it, but I did it anyway in a book called Alters that I did with Aftershock.
Was that Aftershock or
it was Aftershock
or whoever? Yeah, that was great.
So I did do the story, right? Just didn't have the X-Men kind of juice behind it, but I love that story, and I always thought it was a good one. So there are plenty of them, right? There's plenty of DC pitches that I had wanted to do. You never know. Maybe I can come back around and get to do them at some point. The big project that I'm not telling you about right now is actually something that I originally wanted to do. So now they've come back around. And they're like well, we would like to do that now. So
Now, is there one character that you have not done that you would just love to do? If either Marvel or DC come to you and said, Paul, we want 5-6 issue miniseries. It doesn't matter which character, but it can only be one that you've never done before. What are
Well,
the
I can tell you
which
right now, I
character-
wanted to write that. I wanted to write an Hour Man story because ever since you said Sentry was supposed to be an Hour Man character or an Hour Man story, that's in my head now.
So ding, 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 ding. That was, frankly, that was one of the only two answers, right? I'm not a person. I don't care. Like weirdly enough, you may or may not know that I used to be an editor before I was a freelance writer, right? And so I'd done it for years, and I was Alan Moore's editor. There's big numbers right there. The reason I've got so many pages of big numbers is because it almost gave me a bleeding stomach ulcer. It was crazy. But anyway, I was very friendly with Alan, and I remember sitting with Alan at one point just at his house, and we were just chatting, and he said, Paul, and I mean this, like you have to understand what Alan is like. Alan is not the wizard that you see on TV, right? He is and he isn't. He's actually a brilliant guy, but he's a very friendly, lovely bloke, right? He's a really nice guy. And certainly my interactions with him is always super nice to me, and he's just friendly, and he's really interested in creativity, right? So publicly he presents the wizard stuff. Privately, he's just a very nice chap, super intelligent guy. We got into a conversation about storytelling, and it was just when I was about to become a writer. And Alan Moore is directly responsible for me becoming a writer on Hellblazer, because I said to him, Alan, the way that you think I think, do you think I should try to be a writer? And he went, why not? And so I went to San Diego, and I got to be the writer of Hellblazer. That's literally because Alan went, yeah, why not? So in talking with Alan, there was this one conversation I had with him where he said, look, Paul, you've got to think of it like this. If I were to write pornography, I would want to write the best pornography there was. And if I was to write Barbie comics, I would want to write the best Barbie comics there is. But let's be clear about how I would do Barbie. I wouldn't do Barbie with the Alan Moore magical, crazy, oh my God, Barbie gets her head smashed off. I wouldn't do that. I would find out what the audience was and how little girls really identified with Barbie and who really liked her and what it meant. Then I would write a story that really appealed to them, but it would have some interesting stuff in it. And I was like, man, you're absolutely right. That's how you write stories, right? So the question, who's my favorite character? The answer is, or which character do I really want to do? The answer is, I could give a shit. I could write any character. I don't care which one it is. Give me a character. If you really want it to be great, I'll probably find something that I think is worth doing with that character, and then I'll pitch it back to you and say, I'd like to do the best story I can with that character, right? Now, that being said, Alan, I think doing Our Man would be really interesting if I were to do a DC character. And I'm sort of cheating on your question a little bit. If it was Marvel, I want to go back and do more Captain America because I love doing them.
Well, see, you already gave me a hell yeah answer when it was, you tell me the character and I'll write it. Because I was just like, yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
It doesn't matter. You should be able to find anything in any character. So I'll go back to the single issues that we used to do with Spider-Man, right? At one point, I was like, oh, man, I want to do a Mindworm story because that guy... And so the whole thing was this poor guy being stuck as like a psychic wasteland. And he was on a block where nobody would come near him because he was struggling with his health and he was homeless. And Spider-Man recognized him and was like, man, what am I supposed to do? That's a villain that I fought, but now the guy's just sitting in the gutter and he's really struggling and he's messing up psychically the entire environment, right? I had one that I didn't do with the big wheel.
Oh my God.
And I had one especially that I didn't do that I really still want to do, and maybe now I'm back at Marvel, they'll let me do it. I had a story with the Hypno Hustler. And I was like, man, this is the funniest comedy, the Hypno Hustler. But, so you can use any character and make them good, but you have to commit to a why. Why am I telling this story? What's the point of this? And I seem to think that when you look at comics, sometimes the why is like, well, I like it when things blow up and robots are punching each other. And I'm like, that's not a why, that's an event. That's a thing that happens. It doesn't mean anything.
Okay, I do want to get to this one question because I think this is an interesting question from the audience. From Galaxy Dragon 1234, it's if you write another character and weren't able to write Sentry, who would you think would be the best one to write him? Who would you want to write him and would also be a good choice?
Currently, Dennis Camp is doing good comics.
Yeah. Have you read Absolute Martian Manhunter?
Yeah, so there's good.
My God.
Yeah, right.
It's brilliant.
I could probably speak to a few people, right, that I think would be do a good job. It seems unfair to pick that one person out, but someone that springs to mind, I think would. It's whichever creator understands that you have to address issues of mental health with understanding and interest and realistic approach, and not just kind of go, that guy's crazy and look, he blew up a planet, right? And almost everyone in Marvel that has touched Sentry seems to think, I don't know what to do with this guy. And I'm like, I've got a million stories to do with the Sentry. I know exactly what to do with that guy. So it's just someone that would understand that the story is Bob and not the Sentry, not the Void.
That's the heart of it right there. That's the heart of it right there.
Mm.
And I love that. You had me thinking. I know, Alan, you'll remember this because you and Bug were up at the shop that day. But one day at the shop, the door opens and this guy comes walking in. He's wearing a hospital gown and a pair of pants that's way too big for him, like lengthwise. It goes out a foot past the end of his feet. And he came in and clearly was struggling with some issues, right? And so talking to him and wanting him to make sure everything was okay. And he was wearing a hospital bracelet. And so I thought, okay, so he gave me his name and I called the hospital to make sure that they weren't missing him, right? And they're like, no, they let him go. He had walked, 4 miles to our store. I mean, he wasn't coming to our store. We just happened to be along the way. He had walked 4 miles to the store, and he didn't have any shoes.
Oh.
And he was tired, and he sat on the couch and all this. And people were like, "You should call the cops." And I'm thinking, well, he's not hurting anybody. He's not doing anything. I'm not calling the cops. And it's some customers got uncomfortable and they left. But for me, it was like we call our stores Haven Comics, right? And Haven is a safe place, and that sometimes that gets put to the test a little bit, right? So we have to take care of this guy. Well, it did get a little weird when he went to the bathroom and he was gone for a really, really long time. It turned out he was cleaning it.
Oh, really? Oh.
He cleaned the bathroom and then he was hot, so he took off the pants and he came out and no, the pants have to go back on. And he's like, okay, well, then he grabbed a pair of scissors off the thing and he cut the legs off to make them into shorts, which was fine. Didn't care. But we had this pair of novelty slippers, house shoes, whatever you want to call them, that were the ship Serenity from Firefly. And they were enormous. I mean, like clown shoes. And he was really admiring those. And we had them for a long time. And I said, you know what, man? Those are yours. You just take them. He was as happy as lark.
That's cool.
We eventually did have to call the police after he left because he was wandering into the road. And that was unsafe.
Yeah.
So we just called him and said, hey, can you guys come and help this guy? He's miles away from home. He has no way to get there, and he's in an unsafe situation. And the cops came, and they were actually they were very good. They were very professional. The one guy asked, like, "Do you want to trespass this guy?" I'm like, "No, he hasn't done anything. He's fine. He's just in a dangerous situation now."
Yeah, he needs to get home. He needs to be given a place to sit.
Yeah. He was very personable. He was very funny. He was very funny. But yeah, it was a little uncomfortable and a little bit awkward, but I can see you see somebody like that and you put yourself in their shoes and say, literally their shoes being spaceships, and you say, how does he see the world? How are things working for him? And that what you just described as Spider-Man's coming past and see this guy sitting in it kind of felt like that to me. Was
Yeah, yeah.
all right, I see this situation now. What's happening there? Really interesting.
I see the question that Rafa's asked: do I have a Captain Marvel stories in mind? Just so you know, I've pitched the second one already. So
you're talking
Can't talk
Captain
about it.
Marvel, you're talking Sentry, you're talking Doctor Strange stories. It's like you have a mental connection with Aaron right now, because these are all Aaron's favorite characters.
Literally, those are
the Inhumans, his favorite characters. So I think it's safe to say you have shaped a lot of how his brain works, and so for that we thank you, because he's a great guy.
Oh, thank you. Paul, I work in the film industry, and a lot of my colleagues worked on Thunderbolts. And one of my friends, Cassie, she has worked on, I think, 30 features at this point. She says like Thunderbolts is her favorite one that she's ever done because of how Bob has written in it. And that film is so special to me. I interviewed for it way early in, and I didn't get it, but it was fine. I was so green at the time.
What are you doing in the film industry? What are you working?
I'm a PA right now, so I've just been bouncing between any department that'll have me. But I've been doing visual effects, which has been like my favorite so far.
Well, what most people don't know about me, and one of the things that people don't realize is, I was away from comics, but it's I don't do comics. I do comics, I do film, I do television, I do animation, I do video games. I'm a game designer. So I have a company actually, where we are, building for a slate right now. So we will likely film that slate in Georgia. So
I'm in Atlanta. Give me a call.
Right, yeah. So we have a close connection to a couple of the studios, but studios are really struggling right now. So I mean, I think that there's plenty of stuff that can be done. Right, there's so many stories to tell, and this is why it amazes me that people were struggling to understand how to tell stories with a Sentry. And I'm like, I've got 4 or 5 stories already. I've already pitched the sequel to this story. I've already pitched it, so we'll see if this book is popular, and if it sells enough, they'll probably let me do another one. I hope, hopefully with Christian. I think Christian's done a fantastic job. You
guys are like ham and eggs on this book.
Yeah,
phenomenal. Even if you do have to draw for him the layout of how to do it.
I just think it's funny that you led really hard with, oh my God, this. A few people have sort of said, "Oh my God, this book like had me like teary," and I'm like, "Oh my God, you wait."
Well, I think Cully Hamner said I think it was Cully Hamner said on Facebook, "Making people cry is your superpower."
Yeah,
and that's he said that tongue in cheek and as a joke, but there's certainly something to that. And you don't cry if you don't care, right?
All right.
Right. So making people care is really, it's fundamental to good stories.
Yeah, and
memorable stories.
It's just like I said, it's not really confined to Sentry. Like now that I'm on Captain Marvel, the story that I'm doing, is one that I know will make people have very strong emotions. They is more geared towards family. It's about family. But I think that it will really make people think, and people will come up to me and go, "Oh my God, this story made me emotional. It made me think about this stuff." Right. So, I mean, I think that's my job. And the next project that I'm talking about right now, all of them should have this emotion. But by emotional, you got to understand, I also mean like funny, right? Like, right. I'm telling you right now, in Sentry number 4, there's a couple of funny scenes in Sentry number 4, right? That I know people will go, "Oh my God, I loved it when he did this," It's just these like kind of nice little payoffs that people get. And when they see those, that's moving your emotions too. If I make you laugh, great.
Well, if you make somebody laugh, if you make somebody cry, if you make somebody angry, I mean, those are all emotions. It's not just a one note, "He made me sad," because that gets monotonous and repetitive too.
Yeah, it does. It gets boring.
Yeah. So you've got to be able to tell a wide variety of stories. And the Hypno Hustler, huh?
I got the best story for Hypno Hustler.
You would be the only one. I'm dying to hear what this is. That's phenomenal.
I do have to ask, and the reason why I'm asking is because of the Sentry action figure on your shelf back there. what was the bigger moment for you personally? Walking into a store and seeing an action figure of a character that you created, or seeing him portrayed live action on the big screen? Which was the moment that you were just kind of like, well,
Yeah,
hey.
I've just got a very unsatisfying answer. That stuff doesn't affect me that much. I probably landed in a place where I'm not that impressed with myself. So I think it's cool. I think it's lovely that the Sentry's an action figure. I think it's lovely that he was in the film. I think it's a nice moment because it's a long time coming, right? I created the Sentry in 1993, so to see him up on screen in 2025 was cool, but it was also, you know, a lot 32 years later, right? And so I remember being very emotional when I used to work with Ninja Turtles. I was one of the first employees there, and when we did the first movie and it came out created by Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird, and I was sitting next to Kevin, and we were like, "This is cool, right? That's really cool." But I'd already been through it that one time with Kevin, right? And so when I saw my creation, I was much more interested, Alan, not in like actually seeing the Sentry up on screen or something and go, "I created that guy," right? It was much more like I knew that Jake had taken my words and my advice to heart, and he told me so. Right when we did the red carpet and we went to the film, there was an after party, and I walked into the after party, and I think I was with a friend of mine, Yuri Lowenthal, who's the voice of Spider-Man in the games, you know. So Yuri and I walk in, and I hear someone going, "Hey, Paul Jenkins, Paul." And I look around, and it's Jake Schreier, the director. And I'm like, I didn't realize Jake would remember because he was very busy when we were working on the film. But he's calling me over, and I'm like, "Aren't you busy? Aren't you supposed to be doing something right now, like fending off the masses?" But all he wanted to talk about was, what did I think of the movie now that I'd seen it finally, and like, did I think that we had done it the way that I advised them to do it? And I'm like, "Mate, you absolutely took it. You ran with it. You did it. Like, Lewis did an incredible job on the character. You made him vulnerable. You made us understand the guy. You understood that when he's the Sentry, he's just a little bit scary. He's not sure of being the Sentry, and you did that as well." So, you know, I think I was much more gratified by having the Sentry be good than having the Sentry exist on screen. That's what I cared about.
Yeah.
One of the things I really appreciated about that movie, and it's similar to the appreciation I had for the Doctor Strange movie, particularly out of all the MCU films, was that it didn't boil down to a big punch-out fight of who's going to knock around the other person until they run out of hit points and now I win.
Yeah.
That there was another solution, there was another way, and I think that's something that's lacking in a lot of films. Is it just comes like, you could have a phenomenal first and second act. I think the first Wonder Woman movie, the first and second acts were spectacular. The third act was, hey, let's just have a big knockdown drag out fight. And that kind of lost me a little bit. I thought overall it was a really good movie, but it kind of lost me.
Yeah.
But this movie avoided the big knockdown drag out punch 'em up kind of a fight, which is good because that's not a fight they could have won. But it went a different direction and sought an alternate solution, which is infinitely more interesting to me. And I thought that was really well done.
Yeah.
Hey, you are one of my favorite writers, and so I feel like I'm a total suck up. But I want to tell you this because I'm going to tell on Aaron a little bit.
Oh boy.
Aaron usually he comes on the show a lot whenever he can, film schedules permitting and that sort of thing. And I had told him, I said, "Hey, can you come on the show this week?" And he's like, I really can't. I've got to do this other stuff, and this is the night I've got set aside to do it, and I really got to do this. And I said, "Okay, that's cool. Well, we have a great guest coming on, and you're really gonna want to be on the show." And he's like, I just can't. But who is it? And I was like, "It's Paul Jenkins." And he was like, "I'll figure out a way."
Carefully planned.
So his carefully laid plans that involved other people, he called them and was like, "Guys, I can't do it. I gotta do something else. Let's figure out another plan," because he was so desperate to come on here So I told Anya a little bit, Aaron, and I'm sorry, but I had to tell Paul because that was awesome.
No, that's great, man. I'm happy about that, Aaron. You know, like I'm lucky, right? Because I get to be published quite often, especially now I'm back at Marvel, right? So now I'm back in the fold, and I'm hopeful that we can do lots of books, and we'll see how it goes, right? The biggest thing for me right now is I don't understand the way the market is shaping up, and it sounds like people are not very happy with Marvel at the moment. Because I talk to retailers, everyone I'm talking to is like saying, well, there's a bit of a struggle right now. Now, it's hard for me in my position because I'm never going to criticize anyone that does the job that I do. I'm just interested to know why people have this perception that Marvel's not really working out right now. So rather than address it or talk about it that much, all I can do is say, well, I know what my job is. My job is to do really good stories, and hopefully that we can make lots of them. If we can do well, if we can make lots of stories that really mean something to people, then I've managed to conquer my little corner of the world, right? That's all I can do. And hopefully it will bring about some presence in Marvel for me, and we can do it quite often. And we'll see what happens with different characters, right? But I do have a second Sentry story that I want to do. So if the sales are good enough for the first one, potentially we can do that. I've got a second Captain Marvel, and I actually got a pretty interesting Captain Marvel follow-up that I've already asked about. There's a third project that I'm now working on, and so you never know, right? But I suspect that I will come back if I do, and I'll just be doing core stories. This is what I do, right? I don't know that I'll be in the room working out whatever the crossover is, because that doesn't seem to be something. It seems to be something that's sort of outside of what I do a little bit.
And there's a reason that those have dwindled in popularity over the years, is because they ultimately don't matter. The status quo does not change. We had Tom Brevoort on here years ago. That was 2020. And I talked to him about that. I wanted to bring him on because they were doing a big summer crossover event. Empire was that one that they were doing. And we had no subscribers for it at all.
Yeah.
No one was interested at all. And I reached out to David Gabriel at Marvel, and I said, hey, is there somebody that we could have on to talk to maybe pitch this and let folks know why they should be reading it or why they should be interested in it? And of all people, the person that he put me on with was Tom Brevoort. I was not expecting that. I thought he was just going to give me some random guy, if anybody at all. And Tom Brevoort and I talked for 4 hours. It was incredible. It was a great conversation. But as we talked, and one of the things I raised to him was, people have this event fatigue because nothing ever happens. Nothing ever comes out of these events. It's always an immediate return to the status quo.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, yeah, we kind of feel like we have to do that. And I was like, then why are you doing the event? I just didn't understand it.
You know what's so funny, right? There was this one time I was going to do one. It was just before I left Marvel.
And now I'm dying to know what it was
that I was going to do. They actually announced it, and then it didn't happen, and I left. Yeah.
What was it?
Well, if you remember, if you go back in the day, you'll see Joe Quesada saying Paul Jenkins just pitched the best crossover I've ever heard of. Like, he was waxing lyrical about it. It was because it would have done the thing that you wanted to do. It would have had lasting consequences. Would have had lasting effects and mean something, but it was a platform that allowed the creators to take each of the individual titles and do something incredible with them because of what came out of it. We never did it. And I've always wondered about that. Like, if we had done that, I wonder if it would have sustained more interest, We'll see.
Now,
do it.
You had talked about it earlier with X-Men, how you were wanting to do like a core title, like a mythos book for each character.
Mm-hmm.
At this point in because I kind of have a love-hate relationship with the X-Men franchise right now. I love the characters. I just don't like the comic books. If Marvel gave you X-Men right now,
mm-hmm.
would it be easier to do just a hard reset? Or do you start where they're currently at and you go into those mythos books and then rebuild from within?
I think you rebuild. again, I can't really comment on it. Like Gail is a really good writer, right? So
Yes.
you know, I wouldn't want to ever make any inference that what Gail is doing isn't the right thing. You know, I don't know. Tom edits the books. You know, I've known Tom for a very long time. You know.
I'm just using X-Men as my example.
Okay, so X-Men, I know what I would do. I know what I think is important. It's something that I just literally been talking to Marvel about. I think you need this baseline core stories that make us care about the characters and tell us who they are and build them out. And from there, you build out this stuff, right? And I think what they do is they've got the stuff and they haven't worked out how to get back down. Because I think they think this is low-selling books. And I'm like, I just don't believe it. I think you need to look out the window and across the way is DC doing Absolute, and they're not selling low. They're in the 16 of the top 20.
I think the initial success of the MCU with Iron Man, Captain America, was because they did exactly what you're describing. They gave you those characters, and you got to know those characters and care about those characters. And then they had the Avengers movie where they brought them together.
And then they did the big stuff, right? And then you know, when you Aaron, you know, I know that you really like the Inhumans, and I know that you read some stuff afterwards. I'll tell you what I think they did wrong with the Inhumans, right? We did it. We won an Eisner Award. That thing right there, actually, that little thing right there, that's the Eisner. They didn't give us statues in those days. They just gave us one of those things. And, you know, we did this book, and it was very popular, and I thought the story worked out okay. And one of the things, I didn't really know the characters very well, and they told me, oh, Black Bolt's never been defeated in battle. So interesting character to write, because I needed to make it seem as though he was going to get defeated. And everybody, you know, I knew when the book was coming out that I knew what the end was, but it looked like he was going to get overwhelmed, right? It looked like he was going to lose. And everybody, I knew the fans were writing in going, when's he going to do something? And I'm like, well, we got you now, haven't you? You care now, but you never cared about the Inhumans before. So now you care. So we've done something. Okay. So he'd never been defeated in battle. We finished the book. He still hadn't been defeated. And the very next book that they did, Black Bolt defeated in battle for the first time. And I'm like, yeah, that's the problem. It's the only time. Now that he's been defeated in battle, you can never say he's never been defeated in battle. You've broken it. I think it's that kind of stuff. That's the kind of event stuff that will absolutely blow stuff up. And I think what you need is the guile to be able to write a character like Black Bolt, maybe, or Sentry, or whatever, that's very powerful, but make it feel as though they can't win or something's broken. Well, what do you do that with? You don't do it with physical battles. You don't do it with that. You do it with stuff in the mind and in the heart, right? That's how you tell a story.
Which is what I love so much, because I think a lot of your work with Inhumans really defined Black Bolt's character for that reason. Like the romance in how he relies on his family and letting that be the central story. And the dynamic between Black Bolt and Medusa and the way that they speak to each other psychically, I've never seen anything like that, even in any medium still to this day. I think it is the most interpersonable and touching romance I have seen, maybe ever.
You see this page right here? I don't know if you guys can see it that well. I guess I'll probably just get down.
He's going to take it down off the wall for us.
Oh my God, thank you.
This is one of my favorite pages because
Beautiful.
this is Medusa doing her own hair. Like, so her attendant is right there with her, but in fact, Medusa's just tying her own hair for the night. One of the things that we did with Medusa was that she had been created in the 60s. So she was like the lady with hair that can punch people, whereas Black Bolt could blow up an entire galaxy. And there you go, right? It's very typical. But what did we do in the story? We made sure that she was instrumental in how the story got resolved. She sacrificed hugely in that story, right? So, you know, I remember when the Inhumans TV show came out, and I watched the first episode and a half, and went, "Why did you not call me? Well, I don't get it. What did you make?" That thing was disastrous because it was awful. He's supposed to be enigmatic, and you're supposed to wonder, what does he think? Well, if he does sign language where everybody interprets the sign language, you go, you may as well just let him speak. Mm-hmm. They broke it in all the ways because they didn't understand why those characters meant something. And I think that's what we have to do collectively, right? We better get back to the idea of, why do these characters mean something? Tell me why. And hopefully I'll be given a chance to do that a little bit on Marvel over the next couple of years. You know?
I pray to God that Marvel takes that to heart, because I think
I think Josh froze up and we lost him. But
yeah.
There's been two characters for as long as I've been reading comic books that I was, for whatever reason, I was actually emotionally invested in their stories. And it's because of all the reasons that you said tonight. One of them is Nightwing from DC Comics, and the other one is Daredevil.
Mm-hmm.
Daredevil, those two have just, I mean, it's like you understand the emotional roller coaster that they're on.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why those characters work so much. And they, like you said, they need to do that with some of their X-Men. You know, just let those characters develop. After Chip Zdarsky finished his run on Daredevil, I believe it was Ahmed, is his last name, started writing Daredevil. Well, the first thing that he did was he took Daredevil out of the comic book. Matt Murdock was no longer a lawyer. He was actually a priest. So he developed the Father Matthew character and persona, and then slowly brought Daredevil back into it. And it was beautiful to the point where Father Matthew actually showed up in like a little cameo in another book, and you got excited to see Father Matthew there. I mean, it's the little things that they should be doing like that.
Daredevil as a priest was one of the offshoots of the big project, the crossover project that I.
Oh my gosh.
Father Matthew is a great character.
Yeah. Yeah, no. I mean, you know, I think, you know, no sense in going around in circles, but I think we get it, right? The idea is, like, if we can just put core stories together and build, then I think we'll have something. And that, I hope, is what I'll get a chance to do a little bit at Marvel as I've come back. And we'll see. You know, I appreciate CB allowing me to kind of do Sentry the way that I do it. I think that was the right move. I think it made much more sense that he did it that way. And that's what you see in the Sentry. You don't really see a reference to a bunch of other stuff. You just see me doing the Sentry the way that I do him. And so we'll see, right? We'll see if the acclaim or the response for Captain Marvel is the same. I hope it will be. And we'll see if that moves into future small series of Sentry and Captain Marvel and all the other stuff that I hope to do. Because it feels like that stuff is needed right now. So we'll see if that comes about, you know.
All right, well, we are closing up. We've actually gone over a little hour and a half, and we want to be respectful of your time.
Good.
Josh seems to be having a lot of issues all of a sudden with his internet. Aaron, here it is. I mean, you got any last big comment, question, complaint, concern? I mean, we've got you in front of Paul Jenkins. This was all for you.
I mean, it's all love. It's always been all love. Thank you for what you do. I'm really excited to see how the rest of Sentry goes. We did a podcast with my friend Hunter Barcroft for Trilith Institute right before Thunderbolts came out.
Right, yeah.
And you mentioned like what you've been doing for Georgia's film economy to make sure that we get like tax incentives so that we can keep filming. Thank you for your work there. I'm really excited to see where the thesis of this keeps going. I'm floored. I'm floored, and I'm really inspired. So thank you for what you do.
You guys got to see a page from the second issue tonight that no one's seen. So
yeah, thank you for that too.
I have one question that I have learned. It's taken a bit because comic creators do a lot of shows with folks and podcasts, and we all ask a lot of the same questions because we all want to know the same stuff. And so I know that gets boring. But I have a question that we have gotten a lot of really interesting responses to, and I'm dying to know what yours is. What is the weirdest experience you have ever had at a comic convention, besides me coming up and asking you to draw incessantly?
Oh my God!
Say that one. I already know that one. I
am legendary in this industry for crazy stuff happening to me at shows. I am the legend. There's literally stories that are told about me. Everyone knows these stories. So, all right, I'll tell you. It's about a 2-minute story. Sorry, it's a 2-minute.
I love it.
Okay, here we go. So I was at the Wizard World Convention one year. And this is one of many stories, just so you know. I was at the Wizard World Convention one year, and the people from Wizard had this wheel that they would spin. And I was walking past the Wizard booth, and they're like, "Oh my God, Paul Jenkins, hey, would you be a celebrity guest spinner?" And I'm like, "Yeah, man, absolutely. I've got nothing to do right now. Let's do it, right?" So I go in, and I didn't realize what they did. They had a certain rule, and the rule was that you didn't ask a question or do anything like that. The fan would come up with the category, and then you had to ask them a question in that category. And I don't know anything about anything, right? So the fans would come up and they say, "Well, my category is like Yu-Gi-Oh!" And I'm like, spell it backwards, right? I don't know anything. My category is this, my category is that. And I'm like, I have never read that comic. I don't know that video. I just didn't know anything. So some guy comes up, and he comes to the front of the line, and he's like, "My category is going to be German fighting ships of the First World War." And I was like, "Well, that's something I know about." So I asked him a question, and he got it wrong. The first guy, because at this point we'd given away the farm, nobody was getting anything wrong. And so, I asked him a question about, the Bismarck, but the correct answer was the Tirpitz, and he didn't get it right. And I'm like, "Oh, sorry, man, you didn't win." And the people from Wizard said, "No, what we do is we always make them do a physical challenge because nerds are all out of shape. And so we make them do like 5-star jumps or whatever." And I was like, "Oh, that's pretty funny." Okay. So I said to the guy, "Just walk on your hands to the next booth," because I thought he would step on his hands and walk over to the next booth. And it's like the entire convention center suddenly goes silent. And I'm like, "What happened?" And the guy goes like this, and he's only got one arm. And I'm like, "Oh, shit."
Oh, no.
So I go, "Oh, man, really? I'm really sorry." What? Oh, man. And the thing is, he was genuinely pissed.
Oh, no.
And I'm like, "I'm so sorry, man. I didn't mean that. What am I going to do?" Now, I'm British, right? So I'm dying. And I said to the Wizard guys, there was this tiny little sliver that was like, "You can win everything." I'm like, "Can he win everything?" And they're like, "Yeah, absolutely. He can have everything." So they put everything on the table, but the problem is the guy couldn't carry it because he only had one arm, right?
Oh,
so I'm like,
I didn't think it could get worse.
Oh, this gets way worse. You can't believe how bad this story gets.
Oh, no.
So I'm like, "Oh, shit." And I'm like, "Man, let me help you out, man. Let me help you carry that," because I'm very British. "Let me help you carry that to your car." And he wants to leave. He wants to leave the convention. He's so insulted that he's pissed off, and he doesn't relent the whole way. For a British person, this is the worst thing in the world. I've got arms full of this shit. I'm carrying him to his car. He's still angry. I load it in his car, and for the 90th time, I'm like, "So anyway, in closing, I'm really sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to upset you." And he sort of like, "Huh," and he gets in his car, slams the door, and drives off. And I'm like, that's the worst thing that could ever happen to me. And it gets way worse. A couple of months later, I'm at Dragon Con in Atlanta, and I'm hanging out with Bill Sienkiewicz. And I tell Bill Sienkiewicz this story, and I'm like, "Bill, I don't even know what to do. It's like keeping me awake at night that this poor guy." And Bill goes, "I've got just the right thing." He says, "What you need is your karma back. You need to just get your karma back, man." It was right when the origin of Wolverine came. He said, like, "Go find a Wolverine fan somewhere and introduce yourself to them and rock their world and sign their shirt or whatever." And I'm like, that sounds like a great idea. It was a fucking terrible idea. It was the worst idea ever. So I go over the booth, and I'm walking around, and I find this, like, it was like half comic store, but they were selling like prosthetics. So they had like Wolverine slashes and like vampire teeth, and Austin Powers like messed up goofy teeth and googly eyes. And there's this woman standing there. She's got a Wolverine shirt on, and she's wearing a pair of these like Austin Powers like messed up goofy teeth. And so I looked at her and I said, "Oh, nice teeth." And they were her teeth. Right? So I don't know what to. I like squeaked. I went like, "Ah!" And so I run back and I start yelling at Sienkiewicz, "What did you just make me do?" Like, and he thinks this is the funniest thing in the world, right? So that couldn't get any worse. Let me tell you, it got worse.
There's more.
A couple of years went by, and they didn't bring the Wizard wheel back. they wouldn't do it because of what happened, right? So I'm like, oh my God. So about 4 or 5 years go by, and Mel Kalo was working for Wizard at the time. And I get in on Wednesday or Thursday, whatever the preview night is, and lo and behold, they brought the wheel back. So I run over to Mel and I'm like, Mel, you brought the wheel back. And he's like, no, this is a good idea. Just back off. And I'm like, man, you got to let me get my karma back. Come on, man, let me do it. And he's like, I don't think that's a very good idea. And I said, Mel, listen to me. Like, it's not going to go badly. Everyone's got 2 arms this year, right? The fucking guy at the wheel was an amputee. He had 1 arm. and Jim McLaughlin from Wizard comes up to me and he goes, Jenkins, you're a bit harsh on the amputees, aren't you? Yes, I have a few convention stories and they're mostly like that, but that's the legendary one.
That's perfectly evil. I can't believe fate would play you like that bad.
It was the fight. The chef's kiss was me just yelling out, everyone's got 2 arms this year, right? And the guy literally at the wheel had 1 arm.
Oh my God.
All I want to do now is go to a con and hang out with Paul Jenkins all day long just to hear what he's going to say to people.
Well, it's not what I say to people. It's stuff that happens to me. Man, if a meteor comes through the ceiling and smashes you in the head, I'm going to go like, sorry, man, I didn't mean it. You know,
Oh my
stuff
God.
happens to me all the time. So there you go.
I just feel like you should write this in a book and have it be illustrated by Sergio Aragon or something.
Yeah.
Oh my God, because that's hysterical. The 100% true tales of Paul Jenkins at conventions.
Yeah.
My God, that is. I haven't laughed that hard in a long time. That was hysterical.
Beautiful.
That was.
Oh, and I
They're
appreciate
asking
that.
for Captain Marvel pages now.
Oh, look, Captain Marvel page. That seems only fair. Let me see if I can find it.
Oh, okay, hang on.
Rafa, I love you.
And while you're looking, we have a question. Do you have any other conventions planned soon apart from Finland?
Yeah, I'm going to Finland. I'll tell you what. I know which page we'll do. Just because it's kind of nice, right? Yes, we do. And this isn't breaking the world.
I need to kick Aaron off right quick and then block him from YouTube. No.
that is cruel. That is
really is.
For reference, Paul, Kamala Khan's Miss Marvel is like one of my favorite characters in fiction. I have a tattoo of the Miss Marvel insignia to prove it.
Okay.
That has like transpired into
he also has a Doctor Strange tattoo. So
I do. Like it's been a deep Carol Danvers love. This is making my whole week. Like I'm
that's good. Yeah, I'm just about to give you like a quick look at page, but the page I chose, and you'll understand why it's kind of cool when I show it to you. Because I don't really want to give away too much about what's going on in the story, but I think this one would be a really good one to show you guys.
Oh, I guess Josh and I hit. Josh, you do it because I think we hit at the same time.
Oh my God!
Just so you know, the cat's in it.
I love Chewie. That makes me so happy.
So that's how Lucas Wernick did the cat, and it kind of ends with her dreaming. Yeah.
So this is just my suggestion. I think maybe we should have this cat dreamwalk as the Void's cat.
As Freddy cat.
Yep.
Yeah, I like the cat. I just love the way that Lucas had done it, and so we're kind of flying in on catching her when she's dreaming about something. But I love the fact that we kind of fly by the cat, you know.
Oh, it's great.
It does look great.
We're breaking two page reveals tonight on the show. That's unexpected.
Amazing. Thank you so much for that.
And they had a dog and a cat, so that's about as good as it gets, right? That's
right.
That's just how it should be.
All right.
Well, sir, there you go. Thank you so much for coming on and talking with us about storytelling in general, about the Sentry, about Captain Marvel. You have got a lot of fans who are extremely glad to have you back at Marvel, I can tell you. And I hope that they listen to you. I hope that they get back to, and they let you particularly run with those kind of core stories and and back to more character-driven stories instead of just things happen stories.
Yeah, right. I hope so. If they do, we will begin to put out some stuff that I think people will kind of go, oh, great, okay, cool. We've got like a little place that we can do some interesting stuff with, you know.
I kind of feel like when they had Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale working on, you know, the Hulk, Grave, Daredevil, Yellow, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I feel like if they were to give you carte blanche to do what you want to do in an environment like that, would be amazing. I would love to see it. I would love to see it. So I hope that that's what they do. Again, thank you so very much for joining us. I know we have eaten a lot of your time tonight, and it's I apologize for that, but it has been phenomenal for us. So thank you so very much. We really appreciate it.
Anytime. When we've got like completed series of Sentry and Captain Marvel, we'll come back and we'll see how we did.
Yeah, we'll have a group therapy session, and we'll appreciate that too. But yeah, thank you so much. You have a wonderful night. Thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Everybody, thank you guys so much for joining us. We had folks from around the world, from Brazil and all kinds of places joining us. So thank you for that. If you're watching this later, after the fact, check through the chat. There's a lot of great questions and comments in there. So thank you very much for that. And just as a reminder for anybody local, our shop, Haven Comics, we celebrate our 25th anniversary coming up here on April 2nd. So just a couple of weeks away. Hard to believe that we're that old, but we're not as old as the Sentry origin story. Not quite that old, but we're working on it. But anyway, thank you guys to all the folks who make Haven the place that it is, the community that it is. We really appreciate you, and we will catch you all next time. So thank you much.